This is an impromptu video. I get such a kick out of that. All right. So this is going to be the Fantastic Four movie sequence video. It's a couple of movies here. How I would do it if I was like at a pitch meeting or something, this is what I would pitch. One, we never show the transformation into the Fantastic Four. We never show the actual accident as to what happened. That story's been told twice already. First by the Jessica Alba Fantastic Four movie, and Chris Evans, and I can't remember all the actors' names off the top of my head. And the second one was by the Fant Four Stick, when they put the four right in the middle of Fantastic Four, which I thought was clever marketing, but apparently it didn't do too well, which is too bad. I never root for the demise of a movie. I always root for its success, even when I don't think it's going to succeed. I rather hope it will, because, hey, who wants to lose money? Who wants to tell a bad story? Nobody. Nobody wants to tell a bad story. So this would be my pitch. There's roughly 6 movies here for the Fantastic Four, not including any Avengers tie-in sort of movies, crossovers, whatever you want to call them, extra appearances, all that stuff. The first one would be after the accident, the four have gone their separate ways, as separate as they can go. Reed still has Johnny. Sue is living kind of on her own. They've separated. I would start with Reed and Sue already married. I don't want to do that storyline. I'm flexible on that, but that's what I personally would do. Is I wouldn't do that storyline. I would show them having mostly a good marriage, because we don't see that very much in society today, in culture and TV. We see it a lot in society, but we don't see it in television and movies. So I would have them already married, but they're currently separated because of the accident, the thing that turned them into the Fantastic Four, the event in space that turned them into the Fantastic Four. We would never actually explain in that first movie how they became the Fantastic Four besides an event in space. We wouldn't get much more complicated than that. I have some ideas as to how I would do the actual thing, but it wouldn't get much more complicated than that. The first villain should be somebody innocuous like the Mole Man, as well as the Skrulls. We should see evidence of the Skrulls. The Skrulls are a Fantastic Four villain. Clearly, Marvel would like to do the MCU is already setting up for the Secret Invasion storyline with the Skrulls, and the fact that Reed Richards has previous experience with extraterrestrials, as I mentioned in the Reed Richards video, that should be alluded to, and if not directly explained, hinted at. First I would have them fight. If it was the Mole Man, Mole Man's dropping cities. He's not killing anyone, but he's dropping cities. And he's doing that all around the world to try and his own personal vengeance against the surface world, because the surface world has never accepted him because he's too ugly. Don't have an actor in mind for the role of Mole Man. That would take up probably the first third of the movie, and then that's the event that brings the Fantastic Four back together. They've all gone their separate ways. Thing is trying to reconcile the fact that Ben Grimm, whatever you want to call him, is trying to reconcile the fact that he is now too strong for this world, that the world is like a paper world around him. Johnny, after the accident and having the example of the Avengers in front of him, the Avengers already exist in the MCU. So seeing that he would want to start training his powers, he's a very goal-oriented person. He would be training his powers from the beginning. He would be embracing the change. The only one of the four to enthusiastically pursue this. This is when he wasn't at school. He would be working on his powers. That's what he'd be doing. I have him living with Reed, who's already married. So again, Human Torch, Johnny Storm, should be about the same age as Spider-Man. So Spider-Man's in high school, Johnny's in high school. Spider-Man's in college, Johnny's in college. But he's spending, if Spider-Man's in college, he doesn't have to be living with Reed, but Reed's the obvious choice. Sue has left Reed temporarily. They've called it a separation. She still loves him, but he has accepted the fact that they've changed, and she doesn't want to change. I talked about this in the Sue video. She's wanted to be normal her whole life, and she's never been normal, and So she's running. This is the biggest thing that's made her not normal. So she is running away from this whole situation. She doesn't want it to be part of her life. She just wants it gone. And she's not willing to accept reality yet. It's the first adventure that when she actually uses her powers to help, she goes along as the doctor because she's the only one with a medical degree and has the most medical experience. So the thing will go when the call for adventure happens, when they find out the mole man is dropping cities and they don't know it's the mole man yet, and Reed wants them to investigate because he's an adventurer to begin with, and he wants their help to help him investigate. The Thing agrees. As long he's grumpy, he's in a horrible mood all the time because his whole life has been flipped upside down, and he's the only one who can't change back, and he's bitter about a lot of things. But Reed readily agrees to use his powers to help people. That's who he is. Johnny goes because he wants to be a superhero, and he doesn't understand. Like, part of Johnny's arc is that he doesn't understand why people are superheroes. He doesn't understand. Like, he gets it. You're helping people. He gets that. But he's more interested in the acclaim, the glamour, the awesomeness, and being a cool guy and using these powers in a cool way and all the coolness that goes along with being a superhero. And he wants all that coolness, and he doesn't see the downside to it. He doesn't see the drive, the need to help people, to be responsible with your powers. He understands that intellectually, but that's not what's driving him. Does that make sense? Even if it doesn't, that's the argument I'm making. Reed's going because the job needs to get done, and he's hoping this will bring his family back together. And Sue goes because Johnny's going, and she's not going to let him go off and do it on his own. And she doesn't want to let Reed or Ben go by themselves either, but she's torn. At the end of the adventure, Sue should be the one who, all four of them should save the day at different points in the story. None of them are the main hero. And when Sue saves the day, she begins to realize that these powers may make her different, even more different than before, than being a genius child. But, and being the daughter who had to raise the sister who had to raise her brother, as different as she was before, and as different as this makes her, and even more different now, it also makes her more special and gives her an opportunity to help people, to help her family, to save the world, to make life a better place for people. And that power gives her a responsibility, and she doesn't shy away from those responsibilities. And Reed, he gets the end of his arc for the first third or so of the movie is he's got his family back. If we're doing Mole Man. The second 2/3 should be them. So then we have a period of time with them adjusting to the fact they're moving back in together into one household, and they're adjusting to all of this, and you get to see the friction between them as they. I want to get my hand gestures in here, but I'm doing it on my phone, so you're going to have to deal with my facial expressions only, mostly. They're dealing with their fractious personalities and these changes, and how each of them isn't the same person anymore from this one event. And so you've got a time period for that, and then you see the Skrulls come in as a villainous force, maybe as space. They're gathering information, and Reed finds their ship. Maybe actually use the actual number 2 issue of Fantastic Four where the Skrulls impersonate the Fantastic Four. That would be great. Something to that effect. That's the first movie. I like doing 2 villains because then we get to do twice as many toy tie-ins. And that's where there's a lot of money in merchandising. These films need to be paid for, and they need to make a profit. And so finding ways to make a profit through merchandising without sacrificing plot is a wonderful thing. Without sacrificing the story, you want to do that. You want to be looking for that. Or I do anyway. Second movie is a prequel. It's before the accident. So we're doing after the accident, and we're doing before the accident. And it's the story of Ben Grimm and who he was before he became the brooding, bitter monster that he is today. It's also the story of Reed and Sue being very much in love. And it is the backstory of Reed hiding his past from his wife and his brother-in-law / person he's raising, Johnny, and even from Ben, though Ben probably knows more of it than the rest of them. It's the story of why Ben gets time off from the Marines to go on these adventures with Reed, because the Marines only know that Reed Richards has been burned as a SHIELD agent. They don't know why. So they want to keep an eye on him. And I don't know if I've covered all of this in the Reed story, but I would have Reed be the one who reversed engineered the Hydra weapons from Captain America First Avengers and the First Avengers movie itself. I would have Reed be the one who reverse engineered that and brought about the Hydra weapons we see from, what do you call it? And Avengers 2, Avengers 1, the one that Coulson fires at Loki. That's one of them. So we've got that going on. That's part of the story. This would very much so be a different kind of Marvel movie because I want it to be mostly a romantic comedy about an unrequited love story between Ben and a woman. I would like in Ben's past, he had been married to a girl right out of college and she dies in a car accident. And that brooding, that after her death, he just focuses on work. And that's what makes him the greatest fighter pilot in the world, is he's to the exclusion of everything else, except for whatever Reed and Sue and Johnny need. Everything else in his life was just piloting, combat, marine. And with that unbreakable focus, that's where you become the best. It's because whoever puts in the most work, whoever learns the most, the fastest, whoever can go through the more OODA loops, tends to win. So there you go. This is him breaking out of his shell. We start to see who Ben Grimm has been before, who he has the potential of being again, and we get to see it in a romantic situation. I would like him to be conservative and her to be liberal, or have something fundamental there for them to be bickering over. But the real problem that would end the relationship would be that she is not truthful with him about a past relationship and spending time with a man she'd been with in the past. She'd been in a relationship in the past. And while he's deployed, and he basically can't be the man he wants to be, the fighter pilot he wants to be, if he's spending his time worrying about what his girlfriend is doing with another man. He needs somebody who is as faithful as he is. And she's not, I don't actually want her to cheat on him. It's just that level of faithfulness that he needs, and she didn't tell him about it. If she had even just so much as called him and told him, look, I'm hanging out with Charlie Brown again, or whoever the guy is. I have ideas on who the guy should be, but all this would need MCU approval. But I'm hanging out with, what did I say, Charlie Brown? Linus Schroeder, one of the Peanuts kids. No, whoever the guy is, insert name here. I'm hanging out with this guy again, and it's only because of this reason or that reason. He's sick and he needs help, or he's come up with this brilliant new innovation because she's a doctor. I would want the girl to be a doctor who he met through Sue, because Sue's a doctor. She works at a hospital. This woman works at a hospital. The two of them start off not liking each other. They meet each other randomly, and she finds out he's, a combat pilot, and she's very anti-war, and he's not pro-war, as anybody who's ever been in war will tell you, or almost anybody who's ever been in war will tell you. But he knows that sometimes you have to fight for what you need, for what you want, to defend yourself. Not going into the whole argument of just war right now, or self-defense. Where else was I going with this? So they start off with that initial friction. And then the second time they meet, Reed is busy, so he can't go to a wedding with Sue. And it's the wedding is for somebody at the hospital. So both Sue and the girl will be there, the love interest, and the Dulcinea. And so they get there, and they're sitting at the same table, and they're talking about work, and a song comes on, and Ben likes to dance. He turns to the girl and asks her to dance. And she's like, I don't really want to dance with you. I'd love to dance, but I don't want to dance with you. And he's like, look, lady, I'm not asking you to marry me. Or I should do it in the Ben Grimm voice. Look, lady, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm not asking you to even go out on a date. I just came here to have a little bit of fun. And I thought you might want to, too. I thought you might want to also. Something like that. The lines can work out. They start dancing. I have a couple of songs I like to work in, but that depends on what rights we can secure and how much we'd actually want to pay for them, because the cheaper the movie is, the better. In general, let's not spend tons of money on. The MCU has never done a romantic comedy before, so yeah, They dance, they hit it off. They find out when they're not talking about politics, they actually get along very well. And they go on a second date, and it progresses from there. And there's a couple ups and downs. And the ups and downs really focus on her spending time with this other guy without letting Ben know about it. Like, they break up because of that. Or maybe she starts dating him again while she's dating Ben, and they're not exclusive. That's the first time they break up. Then he breaks her heart, and she goes back to Ben. He takes her back and says, you can't be with him without me knowing about it. I'm not trying to control you. I don't care what other men you spend time with, but this guy has broken us up once before. I don't want you seeing him without me knowing about it. I'm not saying you can't spend time with him as colleagues, but I want, that's the condition. I need you to be faithful, and I need to build some trust here. And once we do that, once we have more trust, we can go on from here, or something like that. Probably not that exact. Probably a lot of hemming and hawing, and how you can't think in the moment of the conversation. You can't always think of exactly what you want to say. So it comes out wrong, some misunderstandings, but they get back together at least one more time. And then she spends time with the other guy without telling him about it. And when he finds out, it's over. And at that point, he probably has already purchased a ring and he's ready to marry her. That's how good the relationship is going, except for this one aspect. That fair? That makes sense? Like, really build it up and then crash it down. We have a very bitter Ben going into the experiment that takes them out into space, where they turn into the Fantastic Four. So that's the second movie. It's a prequel. The third movie, I would probably do Namor the Submariner and bring in the whole Atlantis attacks New York. And I would bring in for the big fight scene before the final fight scene, I would bring in as many Marvel characters as we can get for cheap. Bring in all the cameo appearances we can. We don't have to name everybody, skirt around copyright, and just bring in fun people that fans will recognize for short cameos in the fight and in the scene leading up to the fight. We see the Fantastic Four working together. If the Secret Invasion storyline hasn't broken down yet or been concluded yet, then we'll have aspects of that also in this story. As Reed is figuring out what's going on, Ben is still trying. He has not yet mastered being able to touch everything in real life without having to really focus before he can even pick up something like a piece of paper or a TV without breaking it. He's got to really be thinking about what he's doing to dial his power back, because he's as strong as the Hulk. Whether he's stronger than the Hulk or not, I don't know. But he doesn't have the Hulk's... He's in the same strength level as Hulk and Thor. And while he doesn't have Thor's centuries of getting used to his strength, he doesn't have the Hulk's disregard for property destruction. So he's trying to keep everything safe and not hurt anything or break anything, or worst case scenario, kill someone by accident because he's too strong. So that works in through this too. We're going to see elements of that. I would like to do in this movie, at the beginning, you see them working with the authorities. They're not registered. They refuse to register, but at the same time, I think that storyline's over too. But they do work with the authorities. So a story, what I'd love to see is the Abomination is loose for some reason. And they ask Thing to go in, and we have a big fight scene at the beginning of the film between Thing and the Abomination. And it's nothing to do with the rest of the film. I just think it would be a great opening sequence, or near the opening sequence. Then we have the storyline of Namor, him coming to New York, him being in New York, lost in New York. The longer he's away from the water, the worse he is. He hasn't been in the water for decades now. Johnny finds him, like in the comics or whoever, and when he returns to the water, he can't find Atlantis. When he finally does find the refugees from Atlantis, he decides to invade the surface world. And I'm sorry, my cat's doing something. So he decides to invade the surface world. We get the Atlantis attacking New York City, and that's when we get the big fight scene with all the cameos, whoever we can get. And and then after that big fight scene, we get the final fight scene, which is the resolution between Namor and the Fantastic Four. We also get the scene of Namor charming. We should have a scene of Namor charming Sue Storm and trying to get her to fall in love with him. And we see that Sue resists it completely. While she is charmed by him, she does not fall for it and says, no, I'm married to Reed. I love my husband. I'm not. You're not going to ever convince me. So that brings us to the fourth movie, Doom. In the fourth movie, I would bring in Dr. Doom, finally. Doom is a great villain, but you have to understand him. I did a whole video on understanding Doom. I'm not going to go into all the details here, but this is the movie. Sorry. Something up. The cat's down there. He wants attention. Whenever I'm not on doing video or something like this or talking on the phone, doesn't care. If I'm just sitting there typing, whatever, he's fine. If I'm on the phone, if I'm talking, he needs to be, I want to be talked to too. I want my attention, and that's fine. He's a cat. Doom. We bring in Doom. We do the Doom story as the fourth movie. More vague with the rest of these, but it should be Doom, something else. Doom comes back. They defeat him a final time. I think the fifth movie should be time travel, and that's where Ben finally comes to grips with the facts of who he is. I know, 5 movies in, and Ben finally does, because I'd like to do that time travel story where they got to get Blackbeard's treasure from the early days of the Fantastic Four. That could be the fourth movie no, that should be the last. I don't know. It's way in the future. It needs to be worked out, but a time travel story where Ben wants to stay back in time because people accept him more there, and Reed and Johnny and Sue talk him out of it and talk him to come back with them. And Sue should go on this adventure. None of this. Sue doesn't go on all the adventures crap. Sue's part of the team. So that's basically it. Then Doom one more time. The ongoing storyline here, there's a couple of them. There's a secret invasion storyline. But there's also Reed Richards is going to be rebuilding the Infinity Stones, because that energy can't be created or destroyed. The Infinity Stones can be rebuilt. And if he's the one who does it, then he can keep them safe. He knows a lot about the Infinity Stones because he's been studying the space gem since he was a kid, since his father was doing research on it. They took over the research from S.H.I.E.L.D. His father was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. He was a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent for a little while. They took over the research from it after the Pegasus Project and Captain Marvel 1. Captain Marvel had it after Howard Stark had it. Howard Stark devised the arc reactor from it. And so that's why Reed's able to re-engineer the Hydra weapons. And he has a better understanding with Tony gone, if Tony's still gone, then after Endgame, then Reed has probably the best understanding of the Infinity Stones and how they work than anyone else on Earth. And rebuilding them and making sure that power goes into safe hands, because the power's out there. If he can do it, somebody else could do it. So if he does it first, he gets to work out where the power actually goes, who controls these gems, where they hide them, where's the best place to hide them. Because the last guy who made that decision was Odin. And he did a very good job for 1,000 years, effectively. He did a very good job where he put that stuff. So that's it. That's my pitch. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to stop recording now. 23 minutes in, 24 minutes in. You guys have a great day.